Hello, everybody. Appreciate that you are here. Welcome to our annual Global Entrepreneurship Week webinar. And this one is entitled Ecosystem Unfiltered, Your Questions, Their Wisdom. My name is Rob Williams. I serve as director of SourceLink. For 20 years, our team has been supporting local leaders to develop and expand their local entrepreneurship-led economic development initiatives and local ecosystem building work. This includes providing best practices, webinars like today, tools and technologies, and to activate an inspired network, which is the most exciting part for me, and it's why I'm so proud to be on this webinar, to uplift truly some of our absolute best from across the country, from Honolulu all the way to Washington, D.C. Now, we've taken a bit of a gamble on our presentation today, leaning into this interesting idea of an Ask Us Anything format. And we have been inviting you to bring your questions to our nation's leading entrepreneurship-led economic developers and ecosystem builders. I'm going to start first with some brief background about each of my friends that are joining us today to kind of warm us up and get us prepared to ask questions. When you are ready and you have questions, please use the little hand raise icon to let me know, and I will do my best to call on you as best as I am able. I also implore you to use the chat. I'm going to be monitoring that as best as I can. We're going to be leaving video on, so if you are comfortable and willing, I encourage you to turn on the video. This is meant to be an interactive session and a personal session. And so with that, what we're going to do first is give you a little bit of background about who's on the call. I'm going to start first with Rebecca. Rebecca oversees the Fairfax County Department of Economic Initiatives and Fairfax Core, obviously in Fairfax County, which is actually right next to Washington, D.C. As one of her colleagues once put it to me, it has as large of a budget and staff as some entire statewide economic development departments. It's pretty massive. And what's really cool is Rebecca's team works on everything from all different kinds of economic development facets, from affordable housing to community development to, of course, entrepreneurship initiatives. And so she brings a wealth of experience, and we'll be able to talk to many different topics on entrepreneurship as well as economic development. Next, we have Mark Burdette. Mark was an entrepreneur himself before becoming a business mentor and a business consultant and coach. Mark, I believe that you had created your own internet service provider company, an IT company. And so your own journey is absolutely inspired. And I know that he's going to talk a little bit about how he brings that entrepreneurial spirit to the work as now Deputy Director of the West Virginia Small Business Development Center Network. He's been doing ecosystem building work long before it was called ecosystem building. And so it's going to be really interesting. And I hope that we ask him some questions about what the early kind of work looked like and how it got done, because there's some really interesting nuggets that I know he has shared with me that I'm hoping to tease out today. Also, he has a sweet Appalachia radio voice, so we're going to be able to hear some of that as we heard earlier today, and so he'll bring that to the table. Next, my friend Roxana. She will be here on behalf of the Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan, which in and of itself is a very large community foundation, one of the largest in the country, in fact. The New Economy Initiative is a specific program that she oversees and runs and is part of that team. Also, she was part of the team that recently launched My Small Business Helper. What I love about Roxana is she's going to bring a global perspective to this, having done work all across the world. What's also unique about Roxana and her position, she is a funder of other business support organizations or the resource partners themselves. And so has to wear multiple different lenses and every day in her day-to-day work, which I'm hoping that she will also share a little bit more about. And last but certainly not least, I think Roxana is probably one of the best project managers I've ever run across. She is on it, and I mean it, and I love it. And so I'm hoping that she will share how she approaches the work to ensure that things are able to get done in the right way, because it's been really an inspiring experience to work with her this last year. Then we have Alyssa. Alyssa is coming to us from the city and county of Honolulu. She recently was part of the team that launched the Oʻahu Business Connector, and who will soon launch Stay Open Oʻahu. Her team work fast and they work beautifully. They're among one of the fastest groups to actually launch a full SourceLink network. and they have not slowed down. They've only been building on top of it, on top of this really amazing infrastructure that they have created. My focus and hope is that she will help uplift and share some of the ways that they bring heart to the work, human connectedness to our work, which I know that she's going to uplift and talk about when we get to some of her questions. So now, before you hear from all of these wonderful humans, let's go ahead and get started. What we're going to do, actually, we're going to start with my friend Rebecca first. And I'm not going to let all of you attendees sit there passively. For each of these panelists, I have personally curated 3 sets of questions: deep dive questions, rapid fire questions, and wildcard questions. And so to get us started, I want all of you to vote for what question you would like for me to pose to Rebecca first, either deep dive, rapid fire, or wildcard. And to indicate your interest, you can use the react button. And I want you to give me the clapping hands if you would like me to explore a deep dive question. Please use what's the one next to it? The thumbs up if you would like me to do a rapid fire question, or give me a heart if we're going wild card. Whoa! I don't even know that you guys could do the big heart thing. The hearts have it, guys. Rebecca, I'm sorry. I gotta go. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, I think so. I love this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. You're in DC, so I have to ask, who is your favorite United States president? Why? And what kinds of characteristics do they embody that we need more of in our own work doing this?
Oh my God. I was actually hoping you wouldn't ask this. And the reason, actually, it's interesting because I'm in the DC region. Often we don't talk about our favorite presidents because it can be a little controversial sometimes. But I will say, the one president that I had a chance to meet, and I was absolutely starstruck because of his passion, because of his approach and communication style, was Barack Obama. And one of the things that I really loved about him is this saying that his wife, Michelle Obama, once said, is that he actually, way before he was president or even a senator, woke up at night thinking about how can I help solve poverty? And I think that that is just a great embodiment. I mean, I'm sure everyone on this call has topics. We're all here because we're passionate about, whatever it is. Maybe it's entrepreneurship, small business, community development, but kind of bringing that and finding a niche to exercise that in your professional world. I just really value that. And so that's where I'll go with that.
Okay, I love it. All right, who's next? Let's see here. How about Mark? Do you want to go next? And audience, use those react buttons. Give me claps if you want deep dive. Give me the thumbs up if you want to do the rapid fire, and show me a heart if you want me to go wild card. Oh boy. Okay, okay. That's a little bit more mix here. This is actually
That's a
harder
tough one.
than I had anticipated this would be. Mark, what would you pick?
Well, I'll go with the deep dive. You talked about when we started before it was called ecosystems back in the 2000s, early 2000s, and I see good friend Chris Gibbons on here. Thanks, Chris, for joining. Good seeing you. Yeah, back then we were dealing with, West Virginia is in that extraction economy, not as much entrepreneurial economy like it is today, I believe. We were dealing with not only our entrepreneurs, but also our resource partners back then of dealing with that scarcity mentality. And I really, as far as my contribution to the space was being an entrepreneur myself, I really saw what folks like Chris Gibbons was doing, Don Mackey, and Maria Myers, and what they were doing, the language and the thought leadership that they had. around systematizing ecosystem building before it was called ecosystem building really resonated with me, and it really connected a lot of dots for me. And that's really why I got involved, and being there for entrepreneurs to have a voice at the table, being involved in this work. So that was really my main motivation for getting into this space, and really being a champion for the abundance mentality, viewing entrepreneurs as assets to the communities, not risk takers. I mean, they are risk takers. But back 25 years ago, there was a pretty negative connotation with how entrepreneurs were viewed because they were these big risk takers. People wanted guaranteed success. So, you know, as you guys know, failure is a natural process of entrepreneurship. So that's my answer to kind of set the stage for how I got started and why I got started, and some little tidbits of how we should view our entrepreneurs and the work that we do.
So this is a deep dive. You picked it. So I got to ask, you know, that takes many, many years to change a mindset, a culture like that.
Mhm.
How have you done it? What have been some of the tactics that you have deployed, both successful and perhaps maybe that weren't, that helped you learn how to build that culture, especially within an institution like the Small Business Development Center Network, which is a wonderful network. I'm not placing any judgment on the work, and everything is great.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I tell you, I have not been able to do any of this by myself. I am a team player. We have a tremendous group of leaders, since folks like Bill Woodrum and Tara St. Clair
Mm.
and Amber Ravenscroft, who are now leading our ecosystem. And really, as I kind of reflected on this deep dive, you know, we've had some consistent leadership for the state of West Virginia. And I think that is one of the reasons why we have really this, I call the second go around. You know, we had about a 10-year lag from the time that we did stuff back in the 2000s till, you know, Bill and Tara picked things back up and really rejuvenated that. And that's what really inspired me to get back into the space, because I was excited about the collaborative mindset. Things did shift from 20 years ago. It was difficult, very political, forced collaborations, and now we're seeing how far we can take this thing to the moon. It's just been a great thing to be a part of, and it really is truly a team effort. And everybody, from what I can tell, is headed in the right direction, in the same direction. We don't have people swimming against us. So with us being a small state, it's really crucial for us. We recognize that. And I think that's what gives us an advantage. Even though we're in a rural area, we're not too far from each other, and we've got internet, broadband, Zoom. We stay connected, and we have a lot of high energy with our ecosystem. And I just owe that to a lot of the folks that have helped get us there. And I'm just glad to be a part of it.
The gem is absolutely in the response that you just gave about it being that team effort, and the fact that you are willing and open to work in lockstep with others that have that mindset, that has enabled for so much change to happen, I believe. So thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
All right. Roxana, are you ready?
I hope so.
Okay, I know so. So we've got clap for deep dive, thumbs up for rapid fire, and of course the lovely heart if you want me to draw from the wildcard questions. Go! Here we go, here we go. Okay, okay, okay. This is so much harder than I thought it would be. I did not think this through as probably as best I should. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of thumbs up. Does that sound good, Roxana?
Yeah.
Okay.
What was that? The thumbs up?
So this is the rapid fire.
Oh, okay.
I might give you a couple.
I'm
I
feeling
want to hear
nervous.
from you. I want to hear from you. A great Southeast Michigan company that inspires you.
Well, there are a lot of very good examples. And I think that before this conversation started, we were talking among the speakers, and it's a tough one to choose one. But I will share one that is actually in our website, in My Small Business Helper. So I will also share that with you, so like all the audience could go through that. It's a story of a couple who moved from New York. They came here to Michigan, and they started a patty that is a veggie patty company that is called the Angel Mushroom. They started that in a very difficult time. It was like through the pandemic, actually, that they realized that it was something that they wanted to do. And they stayed here in the Detroit region because they saw how strong the ecosystem is. They started selling their patties at the Eastern market, distributing that from there. They got financial help from Black Leaders Detroit. They are also in many other programs that NEI grantees are offering. And they also like got a loan from the Detroit Development Fund. And now that it's like 3 years since they started this business, they are selling in, I think, the 5 or 6 states. They have their products in Myers, and they are really very successful. So I think that's a really good story about how the ecosystem can help and can support to start a company and to grow a company here in Michigan.
I love it. Okay. Roxana, you're good to go. Alyssa, you're next. And I need for folks to give me one more vote, and then we'll open it up for your questions. So either a clap for a deep dive, a thumbs up for a rapid fire, or the heart for a wild card. Where are we gonna go? Oh man. Okay. Okay. I don't know. Alyssa, what do you think? It looks like a clap or a thumbs up, but I can't really tell.
Yeah, I'm seeing a little more claps, maybe.
All right, claps. So let's do it. Okay, I love this one. We're gonna do this one. One of my favorite aspects of your work with the Oʻahu Business Connector was actually the Oʻahu Business Connector people. Your colleague Amy once described it like our website is a digital brain, but the resource connectors are literally the heart and soul of our work. And that stood with me from the time that we launched it and I heard it, and I can't get it out of my head because it's so true. From our network navigators to your business resource connectors, that is what is so important right now. And those connectors have met with face-to-face with entrepreneurs, thousands of entrepreneurs across the year, provide those tailored services and connections. How important are these connectors to your work? And how can we all be inspired to better connect entrepreneurs to available resources and to our networks in the way that you do with such intentionality and impact?
Yeah, so our resource connector team, they are our outreach team. They go out into the community every day, talking to small business owners, hearing their stories, listening to their challenges, connecting them with resources. So we do have the website that's the digital version, like you said, the digital brain that's there all the time. But it's really that interpersonal, in-person connection and building relationships between government and the small business owners. That's really made this program special and really made it something unique for what we're able to offer our community. So they're meeting entrepreneurs where they are physically by going into their stores, talking story with them, learning about what their challenges are, what their successes are, but also meeting them where they are in their entrepreneurial journey. So whether someone's looking to start a business or grow their business, that's where they are meeting them and connecting them to the right resources at the right time. And really just changing the paradigm a little bit in how government interacts with the community. So rather than someone having to come to us and come to our office in order to interact, in order to get the resources, that we are actively out in the community, engaging them, listening to them. And that's how we build programs. That's how our programs are informed. It's still data. It's great data. It's really rich data. But we know what's happening grassroots on the ground with small businesses. not just, you know, how many are opening, how many are closing, but why these things are happening in the community, where maybe some of the challenges are. If they aren't accessing a resource, why is that? So we really have learned a lot from that outreach and how we are able to help the community, how that outreach also helps inform policy and program development and all these great things.
Oh, I love that. I wish every county, every city, every state needs to approach the work that way. And I do think that that is a through line that all four of you touch on, whether you're with a state government agency or community foundation, you are getting out there. So thank you for talking about that, Alyssa. Okay. I am going to allow for questions. So go ahead and raise your hand. Actually, I don't want to do that because I think there's like an automatic Zoom thing that'll, I know that at least one of you have a question. Come on, come on, come on. This is a wonderful panel. Let's get a question. Going once. Okay, here we go. What do you think is the least understood about our line of work, ecosystem building?
As an ecosystem builder, like from like the general public, we would say that would be the question.
I think. Anna, do
I
you
think
wanna...
like pick your other, whether it's for by other ecosystem builders or the general public. I'd be curious to hear different takes on that from each of you.
Okay. I think that it's hard to understand what is like the value added that you are bringing to the ecosystem as an ecosystem builder for many people. They don't see the importance of having an infrastructure, of strengthening the infrastructure, of articulating like the different organizations, of identifying where the gaps are and how to fulfill those gaps in a collaborative way, how to collect data from like the different organizations and make data informed decisions. So that more holistic view that you have as an ecosystem builder, I think that some organizations and maybe like people in general, they do not see that very clearly because they take that for granted. That is something that requires work and effort and time because we are building relationships and we are building trust. And I think that sometimes that is overseen, and it is important to make sure that people understand the value of these connections, the value of building up these relationships, and the value of having like trusted connectors in this ecosystem for this like to work.
Rebecca, you are on mute.
I'm on mute, sorry.
There you go.
I plus one on what Roxana said. I'll just add, it's really hard to understand kind of, I think, the scale of an ecosystem and really the time and effort it takes to kind of engage. And also that there are unique communities within an ecosystem that take kind of unique sets of expertise to really develop and engage with. So just as a couple of examples, I'm in Fairfax County, which is a population of 1.2 million in a region that's over 6 million people. This is a huge ecosystem. And so sometimes, there is this assumption that's like, well, you do small business work, like please engage with all the small businesses, right? That is hundreds of thousands. Like it is a lot of work. We need deep partnerships to explore all of that. And that is our work. It takes a lot of effort and time, as Roxana was saying. The other piece is, and this is something that we feel very acutely, probably like a lot of you, we have a very robust tech industry and ecosystem here. Working with those tech startups is very different than working with like a Main Street business. Sometimes some of the nuts and bolts can be similar and interchangeable, and that's great. But then, access to capital, growth, networks, different levels of support and mentorship. It is just so different across industries. And I think that sometimes that can be really lost, and it really needs to be cultivated.
Rebecca, that touches on another question that Amber had asked about, with the difference between providing resources and ecosystem building and the language that we use to talk about the work. Do you have any other insights to share in terms of how you position and communicate the value that your team provides in doing this work? That it's not just providing resources, but then also activating the local resource network to step up?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that is actually really challenging and something that we are trying to improve ourselves. Like, how do we communicate that value and share it? So I love having everyone on this call, because we all learn from each other. But one of the things I will say is that communication is important. And Rob, I actually think that you are a master at using all different mechanisms to share stories that are stories and are really digestible, and that can often be through like social media. And so kind of often letting others, going back to stories, letting others speak for you. So a lot of the programs that we run, we are trying to get better at having the entrepreneurs share their perspective and their stories, rather than me trying to put out a report and get people to read it and understand it. And so that is something we are looking to do more of, and I think it's definitely the most effective mechanism.
Thank you for saying that. Also, Christopher Wink, we had him on one of our SourceLink quarterly conversations, talk about the power of storytelling and reminding us that we are, in fact, indeed human beings, and we are drawn to stories, and those are digestible. And so we've got a good blog lying around somewhere with a summary of that. If one of my colleagues can just put that into the chat, I think that would be interesting for those to read who want to explore that further. And that actually dovetails nicely into another question that Amber asked about metrics and success indicators and how we track those. What do we track and how do we communicate it? Because you do kind of got to do some storytelling around it. You can't just say we're the lowest in entrepreneurship startups. That doesn't really spur action. Do any of you have anything that you'd like to share on that topic?
I can speak on that a little bit.
Sure.
I think for us, we are really looking at equitable economic development and making sure communities that typically are underserved are still accessing resources. So for us, it's really looking at our entrepreneurs who typically wouldn't have access to resources, who typically wouldn't attend workshops, wouldn't start a business, aspiring entrepreneurs. Are they able to find the resources that are out there, connect with them, utilize them? And then when they are utilizing them, are they able to access them in a way that is understandable for them, feels accessible for them, is culturally relevant for them? So that's where our resource connector team really comes in, and being able to understand from businesses, when they went to this organization, were they able to get the kind of help that they were looking for? And then how can we communicate that back to organizations where maybe it's tailoring the messaging a little bit, maybe it's tailoring the type of referrals they're receiving, but really making sure that people are able to connect with the resources that are out there in a way that makes sense for them as well.
I love that. Let's see here. Sorry, there's a lot of questions coming in, so I'm going to try to get to all of them. Amy, I love this question of yours. I actually had a similar one teed up about asking about maybe a word of wisdom from a friend, from a business owner, from an entrepreneur, from a peer, from a kupana that changed how you see your work, your approach. Do any of you want to talk to that? The question I think was for you, Alyssa, but it's really open to anybody, because I think we've all had so many experiences with business owners and entrepreneurs. You can't help but do that if you're trying to support entrepreneurs. What's been one that's really inspired you to be better?
I can share like kind of like a briefly. At NEI, we center the voice of entrepreneurs in everything that we're doing. And one example is, and Rob, when we were building up this platform, we engage entrepreneurs from the very beginning to talk about the name of the platform, to how or what are the features that they want to see on the platform. And right now we are in a roadshow because we launched the My Small Business Helper a month ago. And every time that we are showing this resource platform and people are, oh, this is like great because like you consolidated all these resources. I didn't know that this existed. I didn't know that we have these programs here and there. We always ask, what can we do better? What do you need? What are the things that you think we're missing? This is a very good start, but I know that we need to continue improving. So having that in mind, we have also designed some work groups among the NEI. We have the Small Business Exec Summit where we are getting together service providers and also lenders. And it is kind of like a case management place where they are bringing real cases where they are stuck or things that they cannot resolve, and they are troubleshooting in real time with other partners and trying to find a real solution for the entrepreneurs and for their businesses. So that is like the approach that we try to make. Not always we are succeeding in that, but that's what we try to do, and we try to hear, to listen, to really listen what entrepreneurs are saying and what are the needs, and translating that into like the different programs and pilots that we are implementing.
I love that. And that I want to build on that and switch gears and ask you, Rebecca, about one of the things that I really love about you and your team is that you two are also very action oriented. You know, and this gets to some questions and discussion around, you know, the current environment we are in. Recently, tens of thousands have been let go of federal appointments, especially in your area. And when this started happening, your team did not sit on their hands. You immediately created a program, Fed to Founder, to help equip and empower everybody that had lost their positions unexpectedly, awfully, unfairly, and find new opportunities through self-employment. Can you talk a little bit about that, why you approached it, and also how scaffolding, like the infrastructure you have built with your team, supports your ability to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to talk about that. Great question. So, right, we have hundreds of thousands of federal employees and contractors in this region. And it's, you know, been a difficult time and a time of uncertainty. And one thing we know about entrepreneurship is that when it has an inverse relationship with the economy, when the economy is sometimes going down is when entrepreneurship begins to spike. And so and the other thing about this kind of community is that what we know right now is that we are in a full retention mode. We want to retain as many of these displaced workers as we can, because these are our assets, right? This is our talent. We want to keep these folks here. So we wanted to very quickly ensure that they had any resources that we could provide to help them consider, you know, their next steps. And so we launched Fed to Founder in March of this year as a way to, you know, just start that dialogue, to be a place when, you know, at midnight you're Googling like starting a business, you know, what am I going to do next? There was like a place to go and a place to start. And actually that when we launched it that month, that was our largest peak that we saw in Fairfax Core on our platform. So we knew that there was an appetite and there was interest in this. And Fairfax Core was, you know, we launched Fairfax Core because we knew this is a resource-rich environment, but it's difficult to navigate through and connect with the resources that you need. So it was just like great that we had launched Fairfax Core the previous year, and it was like ready. It's a tool, it's a resource to kind of like quickly, you know, reach the small business community, but also provide a place for entrepreneurs to kind of land and begin to explore the next steps.
I love that. So I saw another question come in that also kind of speaks to a little bit of the movement right now, and I think has applicability, particularly Roxana, you come to mind. around this question of the importance of making sure that we're investing in this work and investing in building and supporting entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship networks, particularly, and also supporting ESOs, particularly at a time when we've seen entire support networks built to support different kinds and segments of entrepreneurs eliminated and cut in funding. How do you, when you put on your community foundation hat, think about this, and as you're thinking about who to even fund within your network and trying to balance this at a really crazy time right now? And I'm sorry, this is a completely unfair question, so enjoy.
Yes, that's a tough question because we are living in difficult times. All of our grantees, for those who do not know, the New Economy Initiative, it's a funders collaborative, and as Rob said, we are a special project from the Community Foundation for Southwest Michigan. So we are not only a ecosystem convener, but we are also a grantor. So we grant money to many of the resource partners that are part of this ecosystem. All of them have been impacted by what is happening, from SNAP benefits, so farmer markets, grocery stores. We also have seen what happened with the DEI policy changes, the immigration policy changes, and how that is impacting the communities, the neighborhoods, the businesses, because the foot traffic is going down because people are maybe afraid of going out. And so that has been very challenging in our communities for our partners. And we have tried to stand with them. Our commitment with our grantees have remained the same. It's very difficult to match the funding that the federal government is not providing. The philanthropy sector unfortunately cannot like match that. So the way and when everything happens during the beginning of this year, there was like so much uncertainty. We try to bring information. We try to clarify what was happening. We are also investing in capacity building for some of the organizations. We are using our convenience, our workshops, our gatherings, not only to understand the technical part of our work, but also to listen to how people are feeling, what is happening, how this is emotionally affecting them, and trying to lean into each other. So it is a difficult time, it's a challenging time, that's for sure. But we are seeing the unwavering commitment of our partners, and we're trying to stand up with them.
I so appreciate that. I think, personal opinion, but I think a lot of times we focus on the immediate need, the cash, right? The immediate kind of thing, and we forget that there's an emotional, social part of this that all of us can play, just in giving people space and freedom to be able to talk about what they're experiencing, to get it off their chest, and just know that there are others that are also trying to figure it out and will stand beside them. So I just think that's an incredibly important point that you just made that I really appreciate. So thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Okay. Andy, I love your question about the sacred cows. So I think, and if any of you want to just come off and ask it in your own words, you're welcome to. This is meant to be interactive. So Andy, I'm going to invite you. Do you want to just ask your question to the panel? And is there any one person that you would like in particular to direct it to, or would you like them to kind of pick?
I will go with whoever bubbles up can answer my intentionally vague question. What sacred cows do we need to slay amongst our civic and community leadership to enable more entrepreneurship in our communities? And the sacred cow, according to Google, is one that is immune from criticism, often unreasonably so. So what is the thing that we don't think we can slay that is getting in the way of your work within our community leadership, or the way the folks think about it?
Rebecca, you're on mute. Oh, wait, were you just thinking
I'm
out?
having a hard time. I was talking to myself. I'm having a hard time thinking of anything that we can't address. I mean, one of the things that's coming up for us right now, and I'm curious, I think Roxana spoke to this a little bit, is, we've been really intentional over the last number of years is reaching underrepresented entrepreneurs, women, people of color, and we're concerned now that about that language, to be honest, and trying to figure out, like, we that is still a commitment of ours, is focusing on equity, but it's a confusing time. So I don't think that that's I guess we're just trying to stay the course and continuing to support those underrepresented founders and underrepresented entrepreneurs. So I don't think that answers your question at all, Andy, about sacred cows. I don't know if others have ideas about what it might be.
You can do it in the past tense. So what is the sacred cow you had to overcome in your community that unlocked your work or made it easier for people to understand what it is or how it works or why it's important or why it's effective?
Well, I'll say, but my department is relatively new, and one of the things that I was really able to share with really our elected officials and leadership is the importance of small business, which was interestingly, I mean, everybody loves small businesses, but really the importance and the impact. And so really bringing data is as a way to say we need to really support startups and small businesses in a very intentional way, and not just kind of think about not just focus on the business attraction and the large employer side, but also the very small businesses and how they contribute to our community goals, our community vibrancy, as well as our economic mobility goals, and how it's all very interrelated. One perspective.
I think thinking about the last 20 years, and Chris and Mark can speak to this, the entrepreneurship was not really the thing. Even when we had the business case, and we still have the business case, that all, jobs are held by new and young firms. And Chris, your work focusing on stage 2 firms and equipping them to grow, like, this is all out there. The data is there. But economic developers in particular, but really just the field, they didn't want to listen to it for many, many, many years. It was kind of a small group. I would say the last 2 or 3 years has been a market shift, from seeing things like at IEDC, the EDP being a credential that stands right alongside proudly the CECD. That's not for nothing. The fact that of our panelists, 3 of us are on the IEDC board, and one of our primary focus areas is in entrepreneurship. Wow. The fact that we have the eShip Alliance and we have people talking about ecosystem building, which was like, I remember we did a thought leader convening 5 years ago, and I brought up the word ecosystem building among that group and was basically told to shut up. Like, they didn't want to hear about it. They didn't want to hear about it. They were interested in BRNE and making sure that they're kind of caring for their own. And then I'll tell you one thing that stands out in my mind was the pandemic. Because when 2020 hit and people saw their favorite restaurant close, or their favorite bakery close, or their child care facility close, that's when it started to hit people in the heart. And then it wasn't just a business case, although we can do that beautifully and it became an emotional, social, real life case. And I think if we really think about it, and thinking about those lessons learned, need to start communicating in a way that just moves people so that they can't possibly not say it's a no-brainer to support entrepreneurs, and this is the future of economic development. So anyway, I will stand off my little podium here, but that was a sacred cow. Entrepreneurship itself was the sacred cow. Ecosystem building itself, I believe, was at one point, not too long ago, the sacred cow that could not be touched. Darren, do you want to come off mute and ask your question?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Darren Rutledge from Klamath Idea in Klamath Falls, Oregon. Just wanted to hear some thoughts on, efforts like ours as entrepreneur support organizations, ecosystem builders. The work we do is largely invisible. So I'm curious if you could give some thoughts about the importance of local support when it comes to resourcing organizations like that versus foundation, state, federal support. And then as maybe kind of a follow-up, if you have any advice on bringing local policymakers on board with that. And I think it probably kind of ties into that last sacred cow question, because I think, at least in my experience, we're still kind of changing the culture that entrepreneurship is legitimate economic development. So anyway, that's my question, and I will throw that out to all the panelists.
I'll hop in here. I will, to dovetail on what Rob talked about. I think the shift is already happening, and over the next 10 years, you're going to see the rise of entrepreneurship in the way that we all understand it, and the folks on this call. And I think, to Darren's question, one of the things that I talk here about how we measure success in West Virginia is how well we identify and develop entrepreneurial talent. And I think it's a really simple sentence, but if you really think through it and unpack what that means, I challenge resource partners, ecosystem builders to really understand and think through what that means, because what it's going to do is going to think about, okay, the services that we provide, how are we engaging? How are we responding? What are we doing? How are we making a difference? And then you tie your metrics to those two key things. What does that mean in your community? How well we identify and develop entrepreneurial talent. And it's not if it's going to happen. It's only a matter of when, and it is going on across the country. And selfishly, I want West Virginia to be number one. That's why we are excited about what we're doing here. And we're committed as a group, as a collaborative, to be the best that we can be, because we realize other people have rural communities like we do and want to understand how we do what we do and how we've been successful to date. Now, we still have a lot of work to do, but we're well on our way.
Rebecca, do you want to talk to this? Because I just see the way you are masterful at being able to navigate different kinds of stakeholders and bring them to the table, particularly in the political sense, in the councils and the governance and the leadership structures and all of that. How do you approach it?
Yeah, I think it's such a good question, especially on the policymaker side. So when we were launching Fairfax Core, or wanted to create an initiative and an effort like Fairfax Core, the first thing that I did was find and engage an elected official champion, and then many, many other champions. Because one, I knew we couldn't do this alone. We needed buy-in, we needed partners, we needed input. But that, I mean, we are so connected to our board of supervisors, which are our local elected officials. And I just think that is important, that they are, there's a lot of education, I think, to start with. But developing that relationship and really hearing their perspective and then addressing kind of what they see as the need is just, I just couldn't do this work without that partnership and really that buy-in. And then, because you're going to hit rocky times and you need to kind of have that relationship or that foundation to kind of go back to help you get through those rocky times, because they're going to be the ultimate kind of leaders and decision makers. So I think that's an important place to start. And then having, and they can also be the larger conveners. And that's what we did. We had our elected official kind of support and buy in and said, could you help us start to convene a larger group, because you have a big voice and a lot of pull, and then building from there.
And you did that with all kinds of stakeholders. Sorry to put words in your mouth, but like I think back of we call them the A team, right? But these were the really key resource partners and convening and having them part of an informal advisory group to give input. And I think about how you navigated the regulatory individuals and agencies and bringing them together to say, what do you see? How is this different than like our BSO network or the resource providers or traditional organizations serving entrepreneurs? And what insights and what do you need from us? It was wonderful.
That's right. Yeah, there's always lots of different groups with different interests, different needs, different perspectives, and different champions, right? And so you kind of, as much as possible, kind of bring them all into the fold and say, how can, and I think this is really important, how can we help you succeed? And that's how we really positioned Fairfax Core. This is not a new initiative that's in competition with what you're doing. This is to leverage what you're doing and build it up and promote it and celebrate it, and do it as efficiently as possible.
Okay, now I'm doing my best to stay on top of these questions, so I'm gonna need some folks to come off mic and give, your input, your questions here, if I haven't covered it, because I know I've missed a few people, and I swear I'm not doing that intentionally. It's just I'm only one guy, and I'm not real fast at reading. What have you got? All right, we're gonna do the reactions again, guys. So if you want to do a clap, I'll do a deep dive and pick one. If you want to do the thumbs up, I will do a rapid fire. And if you want to do a heart, I'll pick one of the wildcard questions. Okay, a lot of hearts. We'll go that route. Okay. Man, we did. These are like the crazy ones, guys. Okay. Oh man. I'm not even sure which one I want to do. Let's see. So Alyssa, I'm going to do yours. So I think of you as a quiet doer, like you get it done. You and your team always get it done. And it's not because you're afraid to be loud. It's because you do loud work quietly. And so I would like to hear from you what part of your story brought you to lead with presence rather than the spotlight, and how does that shape how you serve Hawaii's entrepreneurs?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So before coming here to work for the city, I, over 10 years, owned a business, a photography studio. And so just by nature, I like being behind the camera, behind the scenes. Being in the front is not where I love to be. So I think that's just kind of by my nature how I approach the work. But I also just really feel privileged to be able to capture other people's stories, and they're not mine to tell, but to be able to uplift them and amplify them. But even more than that, coming through the pandemic, owning a business that was very high touch, so was very impacted by the pandemic, and how many of my peers who just really didn't make it through, who were immensely talented, but struggled in the business development side of it. But really knowing what it would have meant to have a municipality behind them, to encourage them to hear their stories, to take what they need and to be able to use that to build programs, really is why I do what I do, and why I love this work, and why I think it's so important, is to be able to have that. And I mean, because when I started on this team, I started as one of the outreach folks. So to be able to walk into a business and just listen to them, and for them to say like, wow, I can't believe the city really cares enough to send someone here, is really what's made this work meaningful to me. And that, yeah, having a municipality that is going to take the time to want to support entrepreneurs on an individual level, not just on a macro level, on how do we export, how do we do all these grand things, but how do we help you get to the place where you can export your products? And what is your story? What are your challenges beyond just, your profit loss statement? What are the things behind your business? Is it so that you can, make sure your kids are able to participate in extracurriculars, or is this how you put food on the table? And really just listening and amplifying those stories is kind of the why.
I love that. And for the record, you do wonderfully in front of cameras too. I just shared that video of your press release when you were talking about the different entrepreneurship initiatives. and you did wonderful as well. So you can do both. Both equally well. But
Thank you.
Kim, I think I missed your question, so we'll circle back to that. And I think, do you want to come off mute and ask your question about skill sets, or would you like me to ask the panel?
Hi, I'm Kim, and
Hi.
most of my background is more global and on the policy side. So I'm still figuring out who the ecosystem builders are, but I imagine that there isn't any one skill that will let you succeed at that. So and just figuring out where to plug in. You know, what skills are the folks on the panel looking for these days?
Would any of you like to respond?
I mean, for us, we just hired 2 new people. Communications background was our big go-to. We wanted to make sure that they were strong in communications because at the end of the day, we got to tell stories. So we're here to do that here at the SBDC and also be a partner and collaborate with our greater ecosystem partners to help tell the stories that we're all involved in. So communications are the skill set that we really honed in on the 2 positions that we here to complete the BusinessLink team here.
I'll add to that. This is kind of generic, but it's really helpful. Just like great project management skills is just really helpful to kind of get, you know, see the big picture and how do we get from point A to point B and tracking that and measuring that and reporting on that. I mean, it's just like it's so valuable and helpful.
Yeah, I would pinpoint communications, project management, data analysts.
Data analysis, yeah.
Yep, those are really the top 3 that come to mind.
Mm-hmm.
If I can add to, oh, sorry, go ahead, Roxana.
No, I was I was talking out loud. Yes, I totally agree with what was said. And I think that Kim, you said that you're bringing global experience from the policy perspective. So I think that that is also an asset because you have to see the ecosystem as a system, and not a lot of people have the capacity of have that holistic view. So if you can you know, use those transferable skills of where the gaps are in the system, like what is like the outcome that I am trying to achieve in the system. Those are also things that are like really valuable on top of what was already said about communication, project management, and data analysis.
Thanks very much.
Yes, and if I can just add one other thing that we really look for too is entrepreneurial connection and an entrepreneurial mindset. So for us, I think the folks who really do this work really well have some kind of connection to entrepreneurship, whether their parents were small business owners, they helped a friend start a business or something. So they have that empathetic mindset of what it takes to run a business and why some of these things might be a challenge. But then also just the entrepreneurial mindset and being able to create and build and do, so like everybody else mentioned, the communication, project management and whatnot.
All right, we have time for one more question. Actually, I think it's probably a little bit too tight. So I think at this point, I'm going to, we're going to go ahead and begin our sign off. First of all, thank you all for coming to this session. We really appreciate it. We hope that this was as insightful for you as it has been for me, being able just to listen from these wonderful experts across the country and doing the work that we are all doing. If you are looking for other ways to get connected, there are a number of amazing organizations and individuals that I suggest you connect with, many of whom are actually on the call today. The IEDC, the International Economic Development Council, has a lot of professional development networking opportunities. Zachary Barker is your contact there. The eShip Alliance, and Andy I saw was on the call, is something also that you should check out. Go to the Commons, get connected to that online community, go send Andy a note. The Startup Champions and MBA are 2 other national networks that are primarily US based. Well, MBA is international, doing really great work with really great networks of individuals who you can also learn and grow from and doing really great entrepreneurship-led economic development. This session is indeed part of Global Entrepreneurship Week. We are proud supporters of Global Entrepreneurship Week and advancing entrepreneurship, as the way to do economic development in the world. If you want to find out more about Global Entrepreneurship Network, Global Entrepreneurship Week, contact Jonathan, go through GEGAN Global. I've got the link in the chat. And last, I'd love to have a conversation with each and every one of you about what you are doing, what's working, what challenges you have. I may not have an answer, probably won't, but I bet I'll have a person that you should connect with. So reach out to me or Krista if you want to learn more about our network, about SourceLink and our work, and or just to get connected to others across the country that could help you. Again, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Rebecca, Roxana, Mark, Alyssa. We appreciate you sharing your insights and for today's frank conversation. And most of all, keep building entrepreneurship. Let's keep it going and have a wonderful Global Entrepreneurship Week, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
you.
Rob. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Have a great week.